Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. We begin our video with revenge on a woman who was willing to do anything, even break the law to get her way. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. He who laughs last, laughs best. I worked in a 5-story office building on the outskirts of Minneapolis, which was shared by multiple companies. In Minnesota, having a parking space close to an entrance, especially in winter, is highly desirable. At this location, I'd really lucked out. There was a small parking space close to the door that only a compact car could fit if situated just right. Meaning as long as I hugged the curb on the driver's side, there would be proper space between my passenger door and the next vehicle's driver door. Every day that I came to work, no matter how early or late, that space was available. I was truly enjoying one of those perks that life gives you every once in a while. One day, I pull into the office parking lot. To my surprise and anger, a thoughtless person parked their car just over the line into my beloved space. Knowing that this could become a habitual act by this person, I decided to teach them a lesson in courtesy and shoehorned the car into my parking space so that they would have to enter from the passenger seat. Haha. My car was nothing special, so as long as they weren't mad enough to break any glass, I wasn't concerned. My company used the entire 4th floor, and exiting the elevator led directly to the receptionist area. My cubicle was relatively close to there, and around noon I could hear an agitated voice speaking loudly. Moments later, my phone rang and was told someone is asking for me in the reception area. Knowing full well why the person wanted to see me, I asked a colleague to accompany me. As I approached the area, she correctly assumed I was the horrible man that so rudely parked her in by proceeding to raise her voice even louder, telling me, "That was not a parking space. I could have you towed, and what a horrible thing to do," etc. Well, this was extremely embarrassing for me as it was an open-air office and normally quiet, but now disturbed by an obnoxious woman telling me what a jerk I am. To get her out of there, I immediately said I would move my car and quickly proceeded to the elevator along with my colleague. The ride down the elevator, through the atrium, and into the parking lot, this woman would not shut up. It was so over the top that I couldn't take it any longer. I stopped 20 feet prior to reaching my car and said, "You can climb over your seat," and walked back into the office building with her next to me shouting how she was going to have my car towed. As we enter the atrium, she heads for the property management office, even though I knew I was parked legally. I followed her to ensure I could move my car before any tow truck arrives. I entered the management office 10 seconds after her and hear them tell her I was perfectly in my right to park there and nobody was going to get towed. Angrily, she turns, sees me, and storms out, threatening to call the cops. The whole time, I was really curious as to how this woman knew that I owned the car and worked on the 4th floor. On my way out, I asked the management people if they somehow keep track of the vehicle owners by company. They responded negative and said they only know names of employees for each company, and that's all they provided her. I could tell they didn't like being duped into giving out my whereabouts, which led to her badgering me and everyone else, so I felt confident letting this play itself out as I returned to my desk. Understand, this woman was not crazy. She came across authoritatively of being in total control of the situation and not afraid to use every means possible. She was used to getting her way and was not going to stop until she did, so she called the cops. In the meantime, my colleague was running around the office filling people in on what was going on. It just so happens that I can see the car clearly from my cubicle window as I, along with 10 others, watch as a cop car pulls up. Knowing full well she was convincing the police what an inconsiderate jerk that parked there, I expected a call any minute. Sure enough, there was an impatient male voice on the other end of the phone telling me to move my car immediately. Although I knew I could refuse since it was a private parking lot and city police needed permission, I wasn't willing to pursue this any further. She won and knew it. In fact, she had her chin up with a sly grin on her face as I had to walk past her to move my car. You remember how I couldn't figure out how she was able to match the car to my name? Well, after I left the management office, they decided to look into it themselves, and come to find out, she works for an insurance company that sells car insurance. Employees would have access to the DMV database, and it's illegal to use government motor vehicle information for personal reasons. So the property management company contacts her employer to complain about unauthorized use of DMV data for abuse against an office attendant, me. They in turn fire her that afternoon. People in my office couldn't wait to tell me they saw her carrying out her boxes with tears streaming down her cheeks. I was even asked the next day to provide a statement on behalf of her former employer in case she tried to sue for firing her. At least I experienced sweet revenge in the form of justice. Those times are rare. And our second story. Trick me out of my laptop? You'll give me your car. 13 years ago, I was in my late teens, living on my own and really struggling to live financially. One of the few possessions I had was an old laptop. My laptop had stopped working properly, and while I'm fairly proficient in using a computer, I had no idea about fixing them. I did a bit of searching on the internet, but couldn't get it working, so I asked my stepdad to take a look. He has a quick look and says it's effed, but he'll take it off my hands if I don't want it, so I said sure. If it's broken, then it's no good to me. 10 minutes later, I walk into the room and he's using it. I ask if he fixed it, and he says, yeah, thanks for the laptop. I was obviously pissed, and my mom says she wasn't getting involved, and his only response was that he did a quick internet search to find the fix, and I could have done the same. I was broke, and he took one of my only possessions, even though he had a PC and a laptop already. A few months later, I was visiting my mom and stepdad when I had an idea. While I'm useless with computers, I'm very competent with mechanics, specifically Audis, and my stepdad had a 2001 Audi A3. Before coming in the house, I went under his car and unplugged the oil level sensor and a vac line for the turbo. Later on that day, he went to go to the shop or something. When he started the car, it threw up oil warning lights on the dash and wouldn't boost, so he turned it off and had a look of concern on his face. I went out to ask him what's up, and he said that something had gone majorly wrong. He says something along the lines of catastrophic turbo failure or engine failure. He's already spent quite a bit on repairs and didn't want to spend any more money on it, so he spoke to my mom about just cutting his losses and scrapping it. I asked how much it's worth at the scrapyard, and he says 100 pounds. So I ever so graciously offered 120 pounds to take it off his hands and maybe part it out, which he accepts. He signed over the logbook, title, and wrote me a receipt of purchase and handed the keys over. I walked outside, lifted the bonnet, pretended to look at my phone for a minute, went under the car and plugged the vac line and oil sensor back in, fired it straight up, and drove around the block. When I got back, I gave him the thumbs up and said it's all fine now. His mouth was wide open, and he was mega pissed, and my reply was, well, you could have found the solution too with a quick internet search. He tried arguing that it wasn't fair, and if it's working, then I can't just take his car. But I just said he didn't have a problem tricking me out of my laptop, and that he's already signed the car over to me. Tough luck. My mom kind of laughed and said she's not getting involved, and that it was his own fault. I still have the car to this day, and it's practically in showroom condition and runs sweet. And our last story. I caused my ex-boyfriend to lose his business. I had been dating someone for a few months and decided to get an apartment in their hometown. Everything was going fine until I logged into a local chat room, think AOL days, to hopefully make some new friends and find out good places to go sing karaoke, and a weird username messaged me and said, hello, and nothing else. A few days later, me and the BF, let's call him Bob, are supposed to meet up for breakfast, and when I get there, he has a messenger bag with him. I ask what he wants to eat, and he says he's not hungry. I ask him what's wrong, and he pulls out about 20 pages of a chat log from that weird username on the website. In this chat log is some very adult stuff that was being discussed by that username. Also in that chat log was my name commenting on it, which I never did. I asked him what this was, and of course he asked me to tell him what it was. I honestly had no idea. I told him so. He broke up with me right there over this. As I stated before, that username had said hello to me, and that was it. This chat log was faked, and no idea why someone would do that. When I got home, my phone rang, and there was a strange voice on the line saying how that now that I'm single, I should go out with them and all sorts of crap. Then it was revealed it was the ex of my now ex, Bob. Called up Bob and told him what was going on and asked him why he gave my number to his ex. He didn't say anything. Up until this, I thought Bob was going to be the person I spent my life with. that obviously didn't happen. Needless to say, this resulted in a police report being filed with pictures of all the text messages and voicemails being given to the police. Bob's ex created this fake chat log to try and break us up, which it did, just trying to get him back, which didn't work in the end. The revenge. My ex-boyfriend Bob was running a computer business, and at the time, Windows required CD keys to install. He was building custom computers for people, but using a key generator to make the keys to install Windows and Microsoft Office 2003. I found this out and decided to contact Microsoft and the anti-piracy groups and gave them all the information I had. I didn't hear anything more about it until just before I moved back to my home state. The hammer fell. My ex lost his computer business and was fined over $100,000 for software piracy. He still doesn't know who turned him in, but it cost him everything he'd worked for. He was forced to move back in with his parents, sell his car, and get a job waiting tables. Update. I was asked why Bob got the brunt of this. Well, here it is. Bob gave my contact info to his ex, and that started a campaign of harassment by his ex towards me. Police wouldn't do anything because of his uncle being on the force, so Bob giving my number out to people and being the instigator and telling them to hit me up, as I later found out, is why he got the brunt of it. Rather have went after that sleazeball ex of his, but I couldn't get any info. Also, I should mention that I've done some IT work in the past, so that's why I called Microsoft and the anti-piracy groups, because I knew what Bob was doing was piracy. And it would cost him everything if they dropped the hammer on him. Which it did. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.